Picture this for a second. It is mid-July 2026. The FIFA World Cup is just, in full swing across North America. And right now, at this exact second, someone in your office, maybe even you, is frantically toggling between a really urgent quarterly spreadsheet and a live broadcast of a crucial knockout match.
Oh, yeah. It's the ultimate modern workplace balancing act, right? You hear footsteps down the hall, so you Command Tab back to the spreadsheet.
Right, the boss is coming.
Exactly. The footsteps fade, and then Command Tab, you're right back to the penalty kick. Your heart rate is completely spiked, and it has absolutely nothing to do with your quarterly deliverables.
It's an elaborate, high-stakes dance that I think we all know way too well. But before we just write this off as a few distracted moments here and there, we really need to talk about the sheer scale of what is happening. Because when you multiply those stolen glances by tens of millions of workers, you aren't just looking at a minor distraction.
No, not at all.
You are looking at an estimated $30 billion just evaporating into thin air.
Which is, that's a number that demands attention.
Yeah. And to understand how a soccer tournament can create an economic crater of that size, we are digging into an incredibly in-depth Spanish language analysis today. It's titled Baja de Productividad durante el Mundial de Fútbol 2026.
Which basically translates to the drop in productivity during the 2026 World Cup.
Exactly. And the mission for this deep dive is to unpack the true economic and psychological costs of this football fever. We want to break down the science of why you literally cannot look away from the screen, and more importantly, equip you with actual strategies to enjoy the tournament without tanking your career or your team's output. Okay, let's unpack this. Because to help us synthesize these massive global trends into something you can actually use, I'm joined by our resident voice of reason.
Happy to be here and try to make sense of the chaos.
Where do we even start with a global event this disruptive? Let's talk about that $30 billion figure.
Yeah, we have to start with the baseline financial data because it really sets the stage for everything else. The researchers highlight a 2026 survey conducted by UKG. They surveyed 8,000 employees across 8 different countries to get a read on how this tournament actually impacts daily work.
Okay, so a pretty massive sample size.
Very massive. And their most conservative estimate for global productivity loss sits at least $17 billion.
Wait, 17 billion? With a B?
With a very large B, yeah. And when we drill down geographically, the concentration of that hit is just, well, it's fascinating. In the U.S. alone, the estimated loss is around $11.7 billion.
Wow.
And Mexico is facing a $369 million hit. But it actually gets much more intense. Another major firm, Challenger, Green Christmas, estimates that the U.S. loss could realistically balloon to that staggering $30 billion mark.
See, I have to push back on that. $30 billion is literally the GDP of a small nation.
It is a massive number.
That is a massive industry-defining corporate merger just vanishing over a game of soccer. Are these numbers just like fear-mongering from strict bosses who absolutely hate fun? Or is this a genuine economic crisis?
What's fascinating here is that the sheer size of that financial loss isn't just about people playing hooky. It's easy to look at $30 billion and assume millions of people are just abandoning their jobs entirely, throwing their laptops in the ocean and, driving to the stadium.
Right, just total anarchy.
Exactly. But the Challenger estimate reaches that massive number by looking at a much more subtle behavior. They factor in what happens if fans take full days off, sure, but they heavily wait. What happens if the workforce is distracted for just one single hour a day during the tournament?
Wait, really? 1 hour? Just taking an extended lunch break to watch the second half is enough to hit 30 billion.
Yeah, because it's the compounding math of it all. When you multiply 1 hour of lost productivity by tens of millions of knowledge workers, and you factor in their average hourly compensation across the multi-week global tournament, the financial drain becomes monumental.
That is wild to think about.
And it's not just a drop in output either. It includes arriving late because of a hangover from a night game, or leaving early to beat traffic for a kickoff, or just, general cognitive fatigue.
So it's not just a bunch of empty desks in the corporate headquarters. It's the ghost in the office, people who are technically on the clock, but entirely elsewhere in their minds.
That is a perfect way to frame it. This analysis breaks the productivity drain down into 2 very distinct categories: absenteeism and presenteeism.
Okay, so absenteeism is just not being there.
Right. It's straightforward and measurable. According to the data, 27% of workers outright plan to adjust their schedules or skip work entirely to watch matches.
Which is wild in its own right. More than a quarter of the workforce is just proudly announcing, yeah, I won't be here. Good luck with the Q3 report. I'm watching Argentina.
Right, but managers can actually plan for that. They know who is gone, so the work is formally delegated or paused. The second category, presenteeism, is actually the far more dangerous issue for businesses.
Presenteeism. That's a great corporate buzzword.
It really is. Presenteeism is when you are physically or virtually at work, but your prefrontal cortex is completely checked out.
Ah, the classic command tab maneuver we talked about at the start.
Exactly, but it goes way beyond just tab switching. It's streaming the games on a second monitor while you mindlessly nod along on a Zoom call. It's lingering in virtual water cooler group chats, debating a referee's offside call for 45 minutes instead of, writing code.
Oh, I've definitely been guilty of that.
We all have. And crucially, the researchers point to a wealth of organizational psychology literature proving that presenteeism actually carries a significantly higher hidden cost for a company than outright absenteeism.
Presenteeism sounds a lot like leaving your car engine running while it's in park. You're burning gas, you're making noise, but you are going absolutely nowhere.
That is an excellent analogy. When someone is absent, the machine is turned off. When they are engaged in presenteeism, the engine is running, but they aren't steering. They make careless mistakes or they hold up bottlenecks because colleagues assume they're actively working on a collaborative document.
When in reality, they are refreshing a live blog of the match.
Exactly. And the source also mentions sickness presenteeism, which has been historically documented.
Sickness presenteeism, what is that?
It's basically showing up tired or sick. During the 2010 South Africa and 2014 Brazil World Cups, researchers documented this phenomenon where people would show up to work exhausted, feeling unwell from celebrating or staying up all night, and they just tried to push through anyway.
Just a zombie at a desk.
Basically, yeah. Plus, we really have to look at the geocultural factor this time around. Passion for soccer in Latin America drastically exaggerates this effect, and hosting the 2026 Cup in the US, Mexico, and Canada completely amplifies the distraction.
Oh, because of the time zones.
Right. You've got local watch parties, tricky traffic, and primetime matches happening right in the middle of the North American workday. Furthermore, post-pandemic hybrid work makes stealth watching so much easier. You just turn off your camera, mute your mic, and you've got the match in stunning 4K just out of frame.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate for a second here. If I'm stealth watching in my home office on a Tuesday, but I still manage to successfully file that financial report by 5 p.m., is it really a problem? I mean, isn't stealth watching kind of a victimless crime if the work eventually gets done?
Well, it's not quite a crime because our brains are fundamentally wired to seek out exactly what the World Cup provides.
Wait, our brains are wired for soccer.
Biologically, yes. Here's where we pivot from workplace behavior into actual neuroscience. The source material highlights the psychological and neurological benefits of watching the World Cup.
Okay, I am listening.
They cite a 2024 study in PMC showing that watching sports actually improves subjective well-being. It does this through social interactions and shared emotional experiences.
So it's not just a distraction, it's literally making us feel better.
Exactly. It releases dopamine, it temporarily reduces stress and strengthens human bonds. The researchers even point to a Japanese brain imaging study that confirms the brain's reward centers actively light up when watching popular sports.
Just lighting up like a Christmas tree.
Precisely. And while short-term output definitely drops, there is absolutely no evidence of a catastrophic, permanent productivity loss.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because it's like our brains are looking at the options and screaming, Excel spreadsheet or penalty, obviously.
Oh, without a doubt.
But I have to push back on the traditional corporate mindset then. If this dopamine hit is so good for our stress levels and social bonding, shouldn't employers actually want us to watch? Shouldn't they be prescribing soccer to cure burnout?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, yes, absolutely. Smart companies view this not as a crisis, but as a unique opportunity to boost long-term morale. It's a collective joy that builds psychological safety and cohesion.
So they shouldn't just be buying spy software to track our mouse movement.
Exactly. Which leads us perfectly into how you, as an employee or a manager, can actually apply this today. The researchers provide very practical, evidence-based recommendations for balancing passion and responsibility.
Okay, the 2026 playbook, I love this. What are the specific tactics?
First up is the 80-20 rule. You aim for 80% deep work focus and allow yourself 20% for, well, they call them goals and tournament distraction.
Goals. I see what they did there.
Right. And to make that work, you use smart flexibility. You compensate for those football hours by shifting your work schedules around the matches.
Okay, but how does that actually play out in reality?
Hmm.
So what does this all mean for my Tuesday afternoon? How do I tell my boss I'm dedicating 20% of my Tuesday to corner kicks without getting fired?
You frame it around the focus, not the distraction. You tell your manager, I am offline and heads down from 8 to noon, totally unreachable. Then I'm monitoring the match from 1 to 3, only available for emergencies, and then back to deep work.
Ah, so you negotiate your availability. You take ownership of the schedule.
Exactly. Workplace autonomy drastically reduces burnout, but of course you still have repetitive tasks to do, which is where the next tactic comes in AI automation.
Oh, letting the bots take the wheel.
Yes. You use AI to handle repetitive tasks like data entry or routine emails during your peak distraction times. Save your human brain for the 80% focus blocks.
That is so smart. Offload the robotic work to the robots while we watch humans play a beautiful game.
Precisely. And then finally, on a personal level, they emphasize recovery habits.
Like drinking water and taking naps.
Literally, yes. Implementing short naps, hydration, and post-match routines to combat that sickness, presenteeism fatigue we talked about. If you are up late stressing over a penalty shootout, you need to recover like an athlete the next day.
Treat the office job like a sport. To survive this sport, I love it.
But what if you're the manager? How do you handle a team of 20 people who are all definitely stealth-watching?
The playbook says managers have to judge performance based on output metrics rather than hours in a seat. If the project is done well, it doesn't matter if they watch the game at 2 p.m.
Output over hours. That makes total sense.
And managers should actually host official office watch parties to channel that social energy. Plus, they suggest running internal prediction brackets with non-monetary prizes, like an extra day of PTO or something.
Oh, so instead of fighting the distraction, you formally sanction it. It's like a controlled burn in a forest to prevent a massive wildfire. That's a great way to put it. This raises an important question, though, because when you look at all this, the World Cup is ultimately a stress test for modern management and personal discipline, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. It's all about transparency and delivering results rather than just policing screen time.
Exactly. A manager who relies on trusting their team and looking at output will thrive, while someone relying on strict surveillance is just going to create resentment.
Wow. We have covered some incredible ground today. We started by looking at the billions of dollars seemingly lost to football fever, uncovering the ghost in the office and the true cost of presenteeism.
The command tab culture.
Right. And then we uncovered the brain science that explains why we literally can't look away and laid out a playbook to survive it using the 80-20 rule, flexibility, and AI. Because while the World Cup happens every 4 years, your career and daily well-being are constant.
Very true. But there is one final provocative thought here that builds directly on the science we've discussed.
Ooh, lay it on me.
If a massive, globally unifying distraction like the World Cup is scientifically proven to recharge our emotional batteries, flood us with dopamine, and build incredibly strong communal bonds, should forward-thinking companies artificially engineer massive company-wide distraction events of a similar scale during non-World Cup years, just to harvest that long-term morale boost?
Oh, wow.
Right? Like, is absolute unbroken focus actually the enemy of a healthy workplace?
That is wild. We spend so much time trying to eliminate distraction, but maybe we actually need it to survive the work. I want you to mull that over during the next halftime. Thank you so much for taking this deep dive with us today. We'll catch you next time.